Although many companies have pledged to improve racial equality, very few give investors the tools to actually gauge their performance. Mostly, this is because of a lack of comprehensive, standardized, or mandatory disclosures around the world. In the U.S., just 5% of the Russell 3000 companies disclose data on minorities and in the workforce. And in some parts of Europe, there's no data at all. For more on this, we're joined by Rob Du Boff, ESG analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence. And Rob, this is not just because it's the right thing to do, but also important data that investors could use to their benefits, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, one of the things we found during the pandemic is that investors have really started to focus more on social issues. And then with the killing of George Floyd, we've seen corporations and investors try and step up to the plate on this issue. And research has shown that besides any kind of reputational or feel-good factors, diversity can have material financial benefits for both companies and obviously their investors. But of course, it's very difficult to come to a widespread conclusion without definitive data. And investors are finding that there's just not a lot of good data out there on racial diversity like there is on, say, gender diversity. We found that only about 6% of the companies we track globally report the percentage of minorities in the workforce, and only about 2% provide a breakout at the management level.
You mentioned, by the way, George Floyd. Let me ask you about the income inequality issue in the U.S., because we also hear that, for example, Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, is getting even richer throughout this crisis.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not a huge fan of pay gap reporting because I do think that the headline numbers can be a little misleading. You're not always looking at equal pay for equal work. But if you dig a little deeper into why that is exactly, you find that there is a good deal of inequality across the workforce. There's just not the same level of representation among management and technical roles. In many ways, this reflects structural inequalities that result from a company's inability or just an unwillingness to recruit and develop minorities in more skilled, higher-paying roles. And then, of course, in the 21st century gig economy, we're seeing a disproportionate number of minorities put into these contractor roles where they're not receiving full-time employment with the cushy benefits.